afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. On this Monday, Dennis Fithian, pleased to be with you, ready to talk some Michigan football and basketball with you. It wasn't all that bad on Saturday night. Now, it wasn't all that good either, and beauty's going to be in the eye of the beholder. So, given that it's football and we're programmed for it to be an overreaction and an overreaction Monday, you're going to have things flying all over the place and people torn like, wow, people are acting crazy. Well, that's what you get when you get a performance like it was on Saturday night. Now, we are going to dive head on into the development up to this point of Michigan quarterback Bryce Underwood. Also, it is a Monday, and it happens to be the start of the college basketball season for Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines, who are at home tonight against Oakland U. Give me my thoughts on tonight's game and the season upcoming for the Maize and Blue on the hardwood. But how about winning the game ugly? You can pull the 110,000 that were walking out of the stadium or the million people that watched it, and you put a microphone in front of them. You're going to get a lot of people that say a win's a win. And they're right about that. A win is a win. That's the idea at the end. But you don't know what they do to you is they make you feel, they make you feel good. But then the way the team plays, are you in for necessarily more wins? Is this a performance where you hear one player or one coach talk, you hear a million of them talk about they're trying to improve 1%, get better than yesterday, all of those sort of things. And then the offense in the passing game put together a pretty big clunker. And so that's the ugly part. And that's the part that you have to deal with. And there's a lot of people that are just like, hey, Michigan's playing a lot of young players. They still have an opportunity to go to the college football playoff. Have a little fun, back off a little bit, stop acting so crazy. There are a lot of folks that when they tune in or they go to a game, yeah, they want to win, but they want to be entertained. They want to see fireworks out there, and nobody represents entertaining the masses with a football team more than a quarterback. And with Michigan's prized recruits, all eyes, and it's not just you're going to overreact with everything that he does or underreact or whatever else, is that it's going to go with the territory. It's going to come with the territory for Bryce Underwood. This guy is expected to win a national championship and win a Heisman Trophy, and be the number one overall pick in the NFL. So when he has a bump in the road or a couple bumps in the road or a rough patch, people are going to be all over him. Oh, he's a bust, so, or he's the greatest of all time, depending on what week you're watching or when you're watching and all that. So that's got to be tough, for a Michigan fan. I'd say, you'd say, well, that's not the only reason that people are frustrated. That goes back to the coaching, so that's on the coaches. I think that there's no doubt that watching Michigan struggle to beat Purdue, you're looking at the end of the season and you're wanting to get better. And, my idea, like a lot of people's, were that, Bryce Underwood's going to be better in the second half of the season than he was in the first half. And that each and every game, he's going to get a little bit better, towards the end. And then, we'll see what happens against Ohio State. And that was kind of going along that way, a little up, a little down on the road. You half expect that, even if you didn't want to admit it. But then now there's been 2 games in a row where he's been subpar, and now I think your head's spinning a little bit, and you're thinking, "Oh, well, this isn't very good." And instead of calling him like, "Oh, he's going to be a bust," which some people have, and again, it's an overreaction Monday, and that's about as big as an overreaction that you can have. I mean, is there a bigger overreaction than Underwood's a bust, and that they're going to have to move on? I don't think so. I mean, he's their ace in the hole. He's the prize. So that would be the direction if you were sitting back, even if you didn't watch the game, and somebody said, "Well, what can you do to either get under people's skin, get them riled up, or completely overreact? Go to the quarterback, say something crazy." That would be about as crazy as you could, say something. So I'm sure there's some of those type of hot takes out there, but it is legitimate to talk about his development, which we're going to do just in a minute or two. When Michigan had trouble putting away Purdue Saturday night, I wasn't walking out there saying, "Win's a win, everything's good." I did say it would be a hell of a lot different if they would have lost this game. It also affected how I've looked at the next 2 games, these next after the bye, when they go to Wrigley Field to take on Northwestern, and then they go to Maryland, who fired their coach just before we came on. Loxley, he's gone. Good thing that, I would say, at least as we sit here, good thing they didn't do it the week of. That's always the unknown factor there. So that part should wear off if there's, a little bit of good. But heading into the game Saturday, you're thinking, all right, the passing offense is the number one thing that Michigan needs to work on. And they took a step back in that regard. So how you feel about these next 2 road games, there's no way you can be as confident as you were heading into the game on Saturday night. So that's got people a little bit down. We've already talked about the quarterback and just the entertainment factor, and how you're looking at the quarterback, and he's going to be representing the hope and dreams of a lot of the fans. And he put out a clunker on Saturday night. I saw a lot of people, this is not a very entertaining game, and he's taken a step back. He's regressed. I saw a lot of that. Not getting better in the first half of the year than he is now. And there's some truth to a lot of that. The other part that has people down, even though it was a close win, even though Underwood has had consecutive games where he is underwhelmed, it's also the injuries. Justice Haynes, he's going to have surgery. He had he's on a scooter. He was their biggest weapon on offense. Donovan McCulley limped off in this game. And yeah, I know he dropped some passes, and he has not lived up to what I think anybody thought he was going to be, but he limps off. Jashawn Barham, first play, first series, out of the game. Who knows? Sullivan and Rolder both missed the game. Rod Moore, that is a bunch of talented player. Haynes, McCulley, Barham, Sullivan, Rolder, Moore. Now, maybe they'll get 1 or 2 or players back after the bye. Maybe they'll get more than that for Ohio State, but it's just injuries. We all know they're part of football life, but they hurt big time. Big time. When the big time players go down, there's no getting around that. So you've got a combination of a lot of things that are you can say, wow, people are really upset after a win. What's going on? Well, that's what's going on. You got a banged up football team and a prize quarterback that's not playing well, and you just slide past Purdue. It's going to make people uneasy. If you're somebody, they can just be like, "Oh yeah, we're all right. We're playing a bunch of young guys. We're going to make everything's fine." We beat Ohio State last year without a quarterback. I'm good. Whatever makes you, what's ever going to make you feel good for these next few days during the bye week. That's what I would suggest, that whatever it is, if there's somebody that is a real rah-rah person, it's going to make you feel, and that's what you want. Some people, the part where somebody's telling you what's going on, if you don't like it, turn it off. I mean, that would be my suggestion for you. So that's how I feel about winning ugly. You're not going to win an argument with somebody that says, I'll just always take the win. It's like, okay, I get that. I asked myself the hypothetical question, would I take 2 more wins right now? Guaranteed 2 wins against Northwestern and Maryland, but Underwood looks like he has the last 2 games and Michigan barely wins these games. Would you take that right now, offered up by Eugenie? And usually you say, wow, a win's a win. Are you kidding me? Take it. Heading into Ohio State, exactly what you want, with, everything on the table. I wouldn't take that. I don't think that makes me stupid. I think what it makes me is, I'm sure that, you could say, well, anything can happen against Ohio State. You already have banked the 2 wins, but if this team doesn't play better and they don't show a heartbeat in their passing game, then I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. As much as they're in their heads and, they've won 4 in a row and everything else. But I can understand if you're not ready to cross that bridge. So I wouldn't take that guarantee. Now, if you sweeten it up a little bit and said, Michigan wins the 2 games and Underwood, even they're a little closer than you might have liked, but Underwood just wows you. He impressed, I would take that. So it's coming back to Underwood and what I need to see from him and the Michigan passing game. With that, I will take some of your feedback and your thoughts on winning the game ugly. Ferris asking if Justice Haynes has played his last game for Michigan. Well, there's a real chance with that. He has an ankle or foot injury, and he's getting surgery on it. So could he be back for Ohio State? I would not plan on that. Who knows where Michigan's going after that? Yeah, I mean, there's a real chance that is true. Jeff saying confidence is going to need to be a major factor these next couple of weeks for Bryce. He can be a home run hitter for us. Get him back on the horse. We're going to talk about Underwood coming up. Rico getting the latest on Haynes, talking about the surgery and saying good luck in the NFL. Ferris talking about J.J. McCarthy. Still has not lost in the state of Michigan. The J.J. aura is unmatched. I went to watch the Lions game at a friend's house yesterday, and I got there for the game, and I looked down at my fantasy team, and I saw that my opponent was playing J.J. McCarthy against me. And I was thinking for myself, that's probably pretty good. JJ's JJ. You're going to feel about JJ, but it's a fantasy quarterback, and whatever he was dealing with, he's been out. And I'm not thinking that JJ is going to light it up. Well, he didn't necessarily light it up. I mean, he played winning football. It is hard. I wish JJ wouldn't have gone to the Vikings. I've said that like 100 times, but as I was watching the game, I was reminded. I wish he played in the AFC West, not the NFC North. You don't want to see him that often, but here he is in Detroit. And I saw a lot of people getting on Michigan fans because they were excited for JJ, even though they're Lion fans. It's going to take a minute. That was the first time that he played against the Lions. What do you want people to do? It was the same for Michigan State fans when they're all, hating on Aiden Hutchins. They said so many nasty things about him when he played for Michigan, and then when the Lions drafted him, he's going to be a bust and everything. So, but I understood that. It was going to take a minute. Just as an aside, with this Lions game and JJ and everything, it reminded me of something. You think that winning a game ugly against Purdue got people in a bad disposition or anything else or everything else. The friend's house that I went to watch the game, there were a couple Spartans that were there watching the Lions game, and they are sounds. I mean, it, but I guess until you see it up close and personal, oh man, there wasn't a lot of talk about Michigan State. I mean, why would there be, right? Unless somebody's going to say something. But at one point, it was just me and my friend, a big Spartan fan, and I said, "Oh, you guys got robbed yesterday," because I did think that they got robbed. The refs, they picked up the flag, and so I said that to him. And I've never seen it. He was so down. Yeah, we did, but we couldn't kick a field goal. Jonathan Smith still the coach, and they shouldn't fire him, but they should fire him. They're not going anywhere with him. They're not going anywhere without. I mean, he just despondent. And then, as the day went on, his other friend said something about Marsh. There's the Spartans Marsh, and how he's probably going to hit the transfer portal. Man, all of these guys are like, "That's what's the college football sucks now. It's just changed for the worse." Marsh, he should stay. His family all went to Michigan. He should be staying in East Lansing. He's gone. He's gone to USC, and I mean, these guys, the NIL has ruined everything. Look at all these companies. They're having a real tough time. Not that it brightened me up or anything. I know that Michigan was kind of teetering on that. If things would have gone the wrong way on Saturday night, Michigan would be in the same boat. People would be acting the same way. I don't know if they'd be acting as bad as MSU and my friends, but woo, man. Bad seasons and losses. I know you know that, but that's just reminded me with Ferris talking about JJ. Whew. John says Bryce is too busy talking and taking selfies. Ray Charles could have hit those wide open receivers. Well, we're going to get to, funny. I don't know about how funny, John, but there you go. Mr. Martini didn't watch the game. What's wrong with you? A big baseball fan, maybe? A lot of, as you might expect, opinions on Bryce Underwood. Rico says he's not developing at all, it seems. Can't see wide open guys and throwing inaccurate passes when he does see someone. Well, let's turn our attention to Underwood and that notion. That's you heard one person, you probably heard a lot of people saying that he is not developing at all this year. And I think it's somewhat of an understandable position. He played his worst game on Saturday night. And what you're saying, Rico, is true. He was sped up. He was running around like a chicken with his head cut off. He couldn't, his passes, he was missing wide. He was missing short. And when he did get one that was pretty close, McCulley couldn't haul it in. And when he threw one a little under that McCulley, he couldn't come up and get that one. So he wasn't helped out necessarily by his receivers. Even slippery fingers Samaj Morgan, when he fired one, about 15 feet tall, everybody was just ready to jump on Samaj. And they're like, no, that was on Underwood. So I think development for me is that I did expect to see a lot better quarterback than what I saw Saturday night. So I think there are some red flags at this point. Now, I also understand, or I'm trying to remind myself that it's not one of these things where every single game he's just going to be better than the next one. The learning can be over a stretch where he's taken this step back in these two games. Now he could take a big step forward and all of that. The troubling part to me is just watching his skill set. He is about as athletic, I think, as a player that you could possibly have. So he's got the athleticism everywhere in a 6'4" frame. He's built perfectly, and then he's got an arm that's an NFL arm. So those two things together, tremendous athlete and this great arm, but the freelance part of it, where he snaps the ball and then, he's rolling out and he's jumping up in the air and then he's firing off one leg and kind of undershooting it across those are great highlights. And that's a lot of fun. And I think that in a lot of ways over the last 5 years, we've seen that's the way the game is being played now. Throw it underhand, pitch it, do all these, throw it left-handed. But the game, a lot of the game, you don't need to be 6'4", the best athlete in the country, and have the best arm, even where NFL guys are going to be blushing. It's about walking up to the line and being able to quickly process what's going on. Who's coming, who's going, where you need to get the ball to, all of that, and doing it in a super quick manner. And then the biggest thing, once he has the ball in his hand, is being able to stand there and put it on a receiver. And he is struggled doing that. So that is a red flag. If you're a Michigan fan who's like, he's going to be totally fine and I'm not worried at all, that's fine. I put you over here in this side, and on the extreme other side are those dudes that are saying, these are a complete bust and that they need to move on, and this 12, whatever, whatever you want to say. What are they? I don't know in this bye week if they can coach all of that out of him. They saw what he brought to the table and they decided, let's let him cook. Let him run wild. Just let him do whatever. I say whatever because, he kind of does whatever. He spins around, he jumps. What can you do if you had that? Try to harness that in. So it's tough. It's not when I hear there's no quick fixes where this is what they need to do with him. It's on him. I say all of that about, with the people that are saying that it's going to be fine. Do I lean more towards them or the people that are going to say that he's a bust, even though I just said about all this red flags? I would still lean towards he's going to be okay, mostly because the majority of quarterbacks don't play when they're 18 in a big time program. They're redshirting. Sometimes, like when you have to and you're forced to, and that's what happened here. They had zero competition, and he had to play. Nobody was beating him out. Mikey Keene was hurt. Jaden Davis is a year away. I mean, he's not a starting quarterback at a Power 5 school. He might be serviceable still, but he's not now, based on what we saw and what we've seen from him. So it was Underwood. And I'm not clinging to this, but I still think this. I think it's more likely that Underwood will bounce back and play well in these two games heading into Ohio State than he will play two games like he just had. And it's not the one up, one down. Oh, he did well against New Mexico, then Oklahoma down here, then CMU, Nebraska, up, down, all this. And now he is on the road. We don't know the game times. People are like, it'll be night on the road. Concerning. I get that. But I think there's more of a chance. It's more likely. I'm not, betting the house on it or anything, that he's going to come back and he's going to play all right. And he's going to make you feel pretty good about And I think Michigan's going to win these 2 games, even though they just got by Purdue, even though they have all of these injuries. And even though their ace in the hole, or their big card, Underwood, has struggled for 2 games, I still think they're going to win these 2 games. I don't know if that's a bottom line. I try not to say, well, you're overly optimistic. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not as optimistic or that I was, like I said, before Saturday. I'm not going to repeat that over and over. But so those are my thoughts on the Underwood development. And I hear, it's part of the fun of being part of the Maize and Blue Review and covering every, aspect from head to toe and constantly thinking about Michigan football. I did that anyways, even when I didn't work at the Maize and Blue Review. But so everybody's going to try. They need a quarterback coach. They need, to bring somebody else in to help him. This is without, talking about, well, Sherrone Moore needs to go, or they need to, move on for Chip Lindsey, a quarterback coach. That sounds like a good suggestion to me. Not right now. I don't know if you just, pulling somebody in. Whoop. All right, we got a quarterback coach. But yeah, quarterback coach. Because in some ways it's not a free pass, because you see what everybody's saying about him. So it's not going to feel much like a free pass, but because he is 18, it's not a pass, but there's an understanding that it's a process. Even though he got all the money, even though he was the highest rated quarterback ever in recruiting, all of those things, taking a step back and try to take the emotion out of it, you still understand that it's a process, and that most of the guys, we're seeing it play out in real time, that there's still a chance that he's going to be, just fine. But there are also some red flags, that we are watching out there. I'm not just sitting back telling everybody, oh yeah, number 1 overall pick for sure. He'll come back and show everybody. I'm not. Maybe he will. That's not my feeling today, where I'm sitting around telling everybody, you just wait. He'll show all you. I actually like that take, but I don't have that one myself. That's it. Now, let me take some feedback of where the people are. Here's Smash, who is putting himself as the San Diego director of the Stan Club for Underwood. Direct all criticism at me. Well, when you say you're, in the Stan Club, it makes it sound like you are trying to, that you're just a complete slappy, that if anything negative would come your way, that you would just rebuff it. And you're saying direct all criticism at you. No, you can be a fan of the Underwood, but being a Stan makes you think, well, when he throws the ball 5 feet short of Marlon Klein, like, no, he's good. That was a bad route. I don't, everybody, I'm glad you tune in and everything, but I'm not really for I like people that really like Michigan, and it's great that you're a total homer, but it's just like when you come picking the games. When I see Desmond Howard and Charles Woodson, 2 of the greatest Michigan football players of all time, and a big game against Ohio State, and Charles Woodson's running around with a flag, and he's like, picking Michigan. All the Michigan fans love it and everything. I was like, okay, well, what did you expect? What do I expect from Ferris, who says, I'm just a super Stan, and it doesn't matter at all what Underwood does, I'm going to defend him. Ferris following it up, saying JJ needs to take Bryce under his wing, teach him how to meditate, like Yoda with Luke Skywalker. I think I haven't seen this. I don't know this. I would bet JJ in some ways has taken Underwood under his wing, and his sent him some wisdom here and there. When it comes down to meditating, Underwood has probably hundreds of people telling him, hey, do this, do that, do this, do this. This is how you get better. Go here, try this, drink this, eat that, try this exercise. So he's got a lot of that. That's right. JJ, if we're going to be honest about this, meditation is great for everyone, but you have to be ready for it. And it takes a lot of practice. And I just think that's what it is. I was going to make it where people were criticizing and say, oh, well, he'll be, it would be a good thing. It's a good thing for anyone. But you have to want to be able to do that. That's got to be something that there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to just sit around thinking about nothing. I got things to do. Okay, well, you can't really, you got to be ready for it. That's it. Mr. Martini is talking about, even with an unlikely win over OSU, Michigan doesn't have the resume to make the playoffs. Playoffs? We just watched Michigan barely slide by Purdue, and you're talking about the playoffs. Look, if Michigan wins their next 3 games, I think that they'll be in the playoffs. Do I want to sit here and, bang on any table and start talking about it? Because right now, I don't feel great about them, beating freaking Northwestern. So talking about playoffs, I feel like Jim Mora. Playoffs? I mean, right? Really? But, I think they'll make the playoffs. Rico is talking Sharon and Bryce and OC and saying that he pursued, let me just read it. He says, I'm sure Sharon pursued Bryce and made the OC hire, trying to ensure that we had a good passing offense to attract wide receivers, and we haven't even come close. Well, that's that's part of it. Oh, Bryce has been underwhelming these last 2 games, and the receivers really all year long have been underwhelming. And for all of the, Donovan McCulley's wide receiver 1, and against Wisconsin, he, had over 112 yards, and he jumped up 15 feet in the air and made a catch, but he's more like a wide receiver. He's like a gadget, special wide receiver. You're going to come in, throw into him, and let him really jump and try to high point one. But other than that, he really hasn't looked like, besides that Wisconsin game, he looked like maybe they had something going. Maybe Bryce and him had some chemistry. Maybe Bryce was trusting that he could get a 50-50 ball, but it wasn't like that before, and it hasn't been like that after. And then Saturday, and you hope McCulley's going to be okay. They could use him. You've got 2 true freshmen out there, and Browder and Marsh. It'd be nice to have McCulley, but he had a very underwhelming game. I think he should have had both of those passes. The one, sure, could it have been on him? Could have been a better touch for the quarterback instead of the quarterback, sure. But it's also wide receiver, go get it. I thought he should have had that one. And then the one in the end zone to him. Hell, you were talking about J.J. McCarthy early on. He threw one, and it was short, and Jordan Anderson stopped and went down and was able to catch it. McCulley, no, he wasn't. So that's it. Mr. Martini does not have the Big Ten Network anymore. I think I saw all of the people that were disappointed about YouTube TV and everything else. Maybe there was something in there, but if you move, you might not be able to get Big Ten Network, or it's just streamlining your TV and all of that. John is saying, watch the movie called F1 Racing starring Brad Pitt. The rookie driver is Bryce to a Y. Should that say Bryce to a T? I think so. The aggressive driver has to learn the wares of the road before he's taking the checkered flag. LJ says, my son and grandson were at the game Saturday night and said it was difficult to watch at the stadium. It was equally painful to watch at home. Glad we won. I hear you. Andres, between missing McCulley twice on the same drive for a TD, fumbling on the 5-yard line for a touchback, and taking a knee inside the 10, U of M easily scores 35 to 42 points. Well, yeah. I think if, I had a Ferrari outside, it would be a little bit different when I was driving up to the, a lot of things that could go different. Yes, to a T. The New Life's read on Underwood says he's going through his progressions, but he's just not deciding where to deliver the ball. Yeah, I see someone who the game looks fast. He's, I know that the game is changing where you throw the ball from every different angle, but again, without trying to get real repetitive, a pitcher of the baseball is a repeatable delivery, standing in the pocket, delivering the ball down the field to the receivers is the biggest thing you need to do by far. And against New Mexico, he stood in there and that one to Channing Goodwin that was down the seam where he fired that cannon and he put it on the receiver. It was such big time delivery that that is exactly what you're looking for. And now they have him. He seems to struggle throwing the ball outside, and the touch and the accuracy is not there. No, there was a pass that he threw to Samaj Morgan in the Central game where he threw it with such a catchable football, threw with nice pace, touch, and loft, and it landed right in Samaj's bread basket. Even Samaj, was going to catch it. Joking on Samaj, but it was just a thing of beauty, and I was so encouraged about that. And he threw on decline in the opener where, I remember when he was running, he lost, and then even the touchdown decline. But how many other passes have we seen that are not him just rearing back and throwing it, and then, the accuracy is off, his feet. So they have to decide, are they just going to keep letting him throw off his back foot and just rely on his arm talent, or are they going to make him stand there and deliver the ball? Can he stand there and deliver the ball? Bo says, just win, baby. Style points don't count anymore. Well, I mean, I get that. Survive and advance kind of thing, but you do have to admit, Bo, when you see the passing game look like it has the last two games, you're thinking, I'm not sure about the just win over these last two. Cut from a different cloth says better quarterback development is needed. Understanding the defensive coverages, the offensive line protection. The MSU was almost a turnover was an example. Yeah, these last two games, not the greatest, like when it comes down to that. You're talking about backflip. Yeah, everybody saw him do the backflip, I think. The New Life talked to Shoelace and asked if a dedicated sideline quarterback coach would help, but Denard feels that adding another voice would just confuse Bryce more. Yeah, maybe in the off season they'll look at that. With all due respect to Denard, I don't know if he was, if you were asking him right now, right? Yeah, right now, probably not. But you don't. And I have nothing again against Denard or anything else, but I've seen a lot of different quarterbacks. They get to the spot. If you're Bryce Underwood, you have to be very confident about yourself. Look at him. He's like, probably goes home, thinks, I am going to work all this out. Everything has worked. I've trusted my instincts to this point, and look at me. I've made millions of dollars. I was, the greatest prospect ever. I'm starting at Michigan. So all these people with all these suggestions, cool. But I'll be able to take care of, so he's going to have a certain attitude because I understand everything's worked for him perfectly, almost up to this point, almost. It reminds me of when Matt Stafford played for the Lions. And Stafford, I'd listen to almost every interview, every press, everything that he ever said. And I was always like, Stafford gets it. Everything he's saying, he understands. He's saying the perfect thing that you'd want to hear from every quarterback. But then there was one time where there was a quarterback guru that Drew Brees had worked with, Tom Brady. I should know his name. I don't remember it. But Stafford was asked, hey, how about you work with this quarterback guru? And he's like, I'm not working with any. I'm all right. I got it. I know what I need to work at, so that was not what I wanted to hear. I was like, oh, that's the first time I'd ever heard that. He ended up working with that quarterback guru. I think I wouldn't be surprised if you talk to Stafford now, if he would trace back and say, it was that quarterback coach that really, and I didn't think I needed him. So that's definitely something that they'll be exploring in the off season. I'm losing. People are saying things, and I'm not really sure if they're talking to me or if they're talking to someone else out there. So I can't really speculate on it. Ron Rico says he didn't think there would be a time when I would want a Michigan product to transfer away from Michigan, but Bryce needs to get away from these toxic fans. Yeah, so that's going to be on the extreme part, and that's going to be something that I think you're missing it. If you're talking about college football and the passion from any fan base and how they act, they all act like this. I saw something today. It was that Michigan fans are never happy unless they're unhappy. And that's how every fan base is. There's just a lot of Michigan fans, and when you deal with a lot of Michigan fans, you think they're toxic. I got news for you. More than half of the sports fans, you could put the label as toxic on. People generally, it's weird. You'd think you would gravitate towards positivity and that sort of approach, but most people like the hot takes, overreaching, getting personal, toxicity. They like that. That gets them going. So there's nothing about toxic fans that Bryce needs to get away from. I got news for you. When Bryce was taking whatever, the $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, 50, whatever he ended up taking, along with that was going to come a certain amount of expectations. When he got the final grade on his in his recruitment of 99.467, and it's the greatest number ever. With that comes these great expectations. I knew it this summer. How much fun was a podcast going to be this summer? By Michigan's got Bryce Underwood. He's going to start. Let's all just temper our expectations because we know there's going to be a bunch of bumps in the road and it's going to be a process. And probably, to be honest, it's going to be next year or the year after. Nobody wants to hear that. I didn't want to say it. Nobody wanted to hear it. That, I don't know if you say that's part of the problem, but that's been, the recruiting and all that, the expectations, that's been going on forever. Same thing with the fans. And I got news for you, Ron Rico, that if any player is going to get read something that, from a message, that they have to learn that the 100,000 or 100 million people that'll have a response to them, that they're going to all love him when he does well, and they're all going to hate him. So it's not going to be any different anywhere else. So this last part, toxic fans, that's everywhere. Yeah, this part about that Michigan is failing him, that's kind of what Rico's saying here, that Michigan doesn't know what to do with a freshman quarterback. I am putting, so, you don't want to say, you don't want to trash the players. So it's a lot easier to trash the coaches. What I have seen these last two games, it's been on number 19. It's been on Underwood. When it doesn't matter what play call that you're putting out there. When they say throw a pass and you rocket it, and you got a guy, you scheme up a receiver like Browder who's wide open down the seam, and you overshoot him because you're gassed up or whatever it is. And is that the coaching? Or they don't get too gassed? Don't stay in yourself. They schemed him up for a touchdown, and he overshot him. Then they had McCulley wide open for a 30-yard, and he missed him. Could have been caught there. But I am putting the majority of what you see on Underwood, and the misfires, and the freelancing, and the it's really hard to stay in yourself and be accurate with a pass when you're jumping off your back foot and you're doing splits and you're throwing the ball sidearm. It's hard. It looks great. The pictures look awesome. I wonder if that's where I think that they need to really rein that in. And let's just see if he can throw the ball from the pocket. I think he can. We have seen that. They're letting him do all this other stuff. I don't think he's ready for all of that. Was it worth a try? Because in practice, he was like, woo, boy, look at this. Look at it. Look at all that. Ferris taking a that's not a stray. I mean, how straight at boom, taking a shot. Hadley says, I know there's quite a change from high school to college, but you wonder how many times did Underwood fumble at Belleville in his first year? I don't know that answer, Hadley. But the turnovers, that was one of the last things. So you go back to the Michigan State, and again, you knew there was going to be some bumps in the road and all that, but what you had seen from him is he's been pretty good at protecting the ball. Threw an interception early, or had a fumble in a game, but he had done a good job protecting the ball. That was the thing Saturday night, where it ended up putting it in the category of being his worst game of the year. Not only was he misfiring and not accurate at all, and you understood the criticism of him throwing the ball. He was throwing interceptions and then fumbling it. Mar knows. Back to RR, who says Underwood has the same numbers as the past Michigan quarterbacks through 9 games in their first season as a starter. Yeah, you might be right about that. I saw, if you want to feel good, I like all of it. Compare all the first-year starters, put everything up there, all of that. I saw the comparison of the quarterback numbers last year to this year, and somebody was saying, hey, what's your problem? This is vast improvement. I didn't want to argue and say, last year was the worst year ever. I'm not sitting here really down on the team. I'll just restate what I said. I don't feel as good after the way they played against Purdue of them winning these next 2 games. And obviously, I mean, that's let alone Ohio State. There's you can't really talk about Ohio State right now. But I don't know how you would feel as good about them winning these next 2 games after what you saw on Saturday night. Having said that, I do feel like they are still going to win these games, and I would not be surprised to see Underwood bounce back and play well. I think and I probably said this over the last week or two, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there against Ohio State, no matter how he plays, and puts together a masterpiece. And everybody, I'm not really feeling like that today. Andre says, forget about the Klein throw. It's not like he can't make that throw. In time, he'll make it blindfolded. Blindfolded. Well, and the time is now that they need that. Although, you feel like that part's going to be inevitable, or you're on to next season. The New Life's talking about Cignetti and McCulley. Says he was trying to tell his Maize and Blue brothers there was a reason Cignetti let McCulley walk away from Indiana. Well, I can't really argue that. McCulley was in such a great position there. I don't know what he knew about Cignetti and everything that was going on there, but he could have been a part of a playoff team, another playoff team, a team that, and he quit. Now look, different players, and in this age, it's not really frowned upon and everything else. So, hey, give him a shot here. But yeah, I mean, he left a great spot to want to be the man, and it doesn't look like he is the man. Mr. Martini is talking Josh Pate. Well, Josh Pate has airtime to fill, and if I had airtime to fill, talking about with 3-4 games to go, who's going to make the college football playoff and how many, you can sit around for a couple hours. So that's a pretty good time filler. Talking playoffs. That's where I'm at. What's this? I think we went out with Davis Warren at quarterback. Yeah, I don't. Is that just? I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say about that. I'll just let that sit there and let you say it. But I mean, I'm not going to get. I don't think that, but I don't know. He's coming back from an ACL, not playing at all. Get him out there against Northwestern. Woo! I mean, come on. That's pretty hot. That's about as hot as it gets. But when you say you're tired of Bryce. He's taking his lumps, man. And like I said, I think there's a chance he come back and bounce back and play well over these next 2 games, and you'll feel pretty good going in against Ohio State. I don't think now is the time to be down on him or sick of him, but I guess you can't help yourself in the way you feel. And my friend texted me on Saturday night saying, I'm bored watching this game. Like, what do you want me to do? Text back. But I get it. There's somebody, there I saw, people complaining about the crowd noise. The crowd was watching. What do you want them to, they can only roll the dog out there and catch the Frisbee so many times. Watch Underwood throw the ball and watch it, going into, spinning into the dirt. It's not like you're like, let's go. It's hard. They can only play Mr. Brightside once. to get the crowd going. Big discussion. 76 Sports thinks these are correctable mistakes. I don't know. Yeah. A lot of it is not being able to put the ball in the receiver and not developing some kind of touch. I mean, those are the red flags to me. Not being able to stand, and recently, he did throw some right early in the season. He did, but that he can't deliver the ball from the pocket accurately is a red flag for me. That he runs around, throws off his back foot and sidearm, and it's also, just not doing that either. There's another red flag for me, but the process and that he's 18 and that, it's the big stage and that the receivers could help him out and, those sort of things. I mean, all of that plays into it. And that's why boiling it all down as, I don't say as disappointing, but these last two games as underwhelming or disappointing as they've been, I think that there's a decent chance that he comes back and reverses that and plays well. I'm not ready to move on, or I know some, that's a little too hot for me. I guess, Flint is talking about that his eyes tell him that he's Joe Milton 3.0. I saw 100 people, talking about that he looked like Joe Milton on Saturday night, and I saw another 100 saying he's throwing the ball like Alex Orji, because he was. He looked like Alex. I mean, it's I say mean or over the top, but those aren't over the top things. He looked like Joe Milton and Alex Orji, but he's a lot younger than those guys, and he's still developing. So, but I understand they're mean things to say, because those guys, Orji was the worst ever, and then Milton was soft and didn't do anything. So those are two tough comparisons. It's not very nice comparisons, but they're accurate. It's like me of 10, 20 years ago. There was this girl, and she compared me to, what's his name? Drew. He's a funny guy. Drew Carey. That's not his name. Maybe it's Drew. He did the show where, what's your line? He was the moderator. And I thought that's not a very flattering comparison, but it had some truth to it. Tough to hear sometimes. That is tough to hear sometimes. About that kind of stuff. All right. Ferris is planting his flag that Michigan is in the playoffs if they went out. He says 100% chance. Yeah, I agree with you. Now, I haven't actually heard what Josh Pate had to say, but again, if you're looking to fill some time and you want to start talking, if your thing is, that's his thing, he's talking college football, talking about the college football playoff at any time, fills up the time like nothing. Drew Carey Halloween CD. I think Drew Carey. Let me see if those. Let me see what Drew Carey looks like. Drew Carey. Oh, yeah, that is him. How old is he? I guess it doesn't say. Oh, he served in the Marine Corps. Gained stardom in his own sitcom, The Drew Carey Show. Okay, there you go. He's a funny guy. I mean, that part, I liked it. And so we get back to where we started. Why is it so hard to develop a passing attack at Michigan? Well, if you just take the Michigan part out of it, why is it so hard to develop a passing attack? But, we are talking about Michigan. So there's the one that Michigan really likes to run the ball. You say, well, Michigan runs it too much. That's not it. They're so focused because they want to, they want to run the ball. Those two things can't be. I think you have to start with Michigan, where those two, the passing and running, they can't be at odds. We're a running team. You want those to feed off of one another. If you're playing complementary football, you got to be able to do both. There's some kernels of truth, because back in 2021, after Michigan destroyed Washington on the ground, me and everyone else said, hey, that's great, that ground and pound, but they're going to have to, in this day and age in college football, it's about being able to attack in the passing game and be able to score quickly, or certainly be able to stay up with the other teams that have these dangerous passing attacks. You're not going to be able to ground and pound your way to anything substantial. And then, Jim Harbaugh was like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. And then he did it. Then he did it again. And he did it again. So, yeah, that's where Sharon's like, oh, yeah. I think that if I would change up how this is, why is it so hard to develop a passing attack at Michigan? I'd say, why is it so hard to develop a quarterback anywhere? It's the hardest position. It's the most important position. It's the hardest position. It's the hardest position to recruit. It's the hardest position, even if you think somebody's the greatest of all time, to take them. There's so many different factors that go into it. Are we ready to, I don't know. So you throw everything out the window? Who cared? They was the number one, back to the basics, whatever else. Yes, Henny was really good. And he is going to be helped by the coaches, but it's been him. It's on number 19. That's where it needs to get better. Is with 19, with the 18-year-old. And again, I go back. I mean, Lindsey schemed it up where he's got a wide out running free, and you got to hit him. Give him a chance. 5 yards, and there were a bunch of, I don't know, there were a number of passes that were like that. Wide receiver open, throw a misfire. Too high, too low, and then way off. And not on a good, you see guys that throw like it's very catchable pass. McCarthy against the Lions is watching him. Tom Brady's like, I don't really like guys rolling out and throwing back, but JJ did it. And man, you saw him. You're having Michigan flashbacks, and he's like, he's putting the ball on the receiver. And I haven't seen that really from Underwood in a few games. And that's what you're looking for. Put it on him. Not 10 yards to the, whoa, what's that? Now we're talking about running the ball, chewing the clock. We're in their head. Well, Michigan is in Ohio State's head, and you have a running back in Jordan Marshall who is a vintage 2021, 2, 3, 4. I mean, he's Khalil Mullings, Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum. He's all of those guys rolled into one. He was willing Michigan, busting guys and dragging guys. Like, you reminded me of Chris Perry against Purdue on Saturday night. So, yeah, I mean, he is that kind of player that, you feel, as we sit here right now, pretty good about, beating Ohio State. Is that what it's going to be again? Nope, no Underwood. It's going to be just turn around, no quarterback. And they do need to get everybody healthy. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so today it's a 2-for-1 in terms of this podcast. And we have gone through Michigan winning ugly. Just talked a super long time about Underwood's development. Now we have basketball. That's going to take place tonight, FS1, 8:30, I believe, as I will tell you a few times this year, after every Michigan basketball game, the Maize and Blue Review goes live. So tonight, Michigan, Oakland, 8:30, FS1, after the game, I'll be here and talk about it. So if you stay up and you can't stay up too late, well, you can check the podcast. You can check the YouTube cast afterwards as well. So that's available for you. If you're up late and want to talk about it live, that's great as well. So the Michigan team, they could be a Final Four team. Dusty loves his team with good reason. I would like to see at one point them to be the number one team in the country, of course, at the very end, but along the way too. To win the Big Ten or win the Big Ten tournament, I mean, that's a very reasonable goal for this team. Final Four, wouldn't mind sweeping MSU, beating Purdue, not like Purdue football, Purdue basketball. This team, I haven't looked at all of the others. You got the transfer portal and everything else. So if somebody said, you must be crazy, what about Kansas? Michigan looks like they'll have one of the better front courts in the country. And I can't say enough about Ade Mara, the UCLA transfer. I think he's going to be a weapon. Morez Johnson Jr., I can't say enough about him. He is a highlight machine. Everybody's going to absolutely love him immediately. If you haven't even watched Michigan basketball, you'll be like, oh, that's why they're talking about this guy. He's everywhere. And then Yax is looks like he could be special. 3-and-1s in a row against St. John's. Shot might look a little bit mechanical to you, and then you're like, he's 6'9", but he's 7'4". He can take it down low. He can put it on the floor. It's a good passer, good rebounder, good shot blocker. That's a lot of depth. They've got shooters. Cheddar, Burnett, the two most important players on this team. I'd put Yax as number one. But I'm going to put number two as Elliot Cadeau, their point guard. Now, I liked what I saw from Cadeau against St. John's. He is able to do what a point guard is supposed to. Get everybody in their spots and deliver the ball on the spot to the guys that you want in crunch time. And he did it he was able to get the ball to Yax repeatedly. Then he got the ball to Morez Johnson. Then he got the ball to Mara. He's good. There's no questioning the two most important players. Those are the two. If I do have a hot take, I said it last week. I believe that McKinney will be the best three-point shooter by the end of the year on this team. The shot is just too picture perfect, not to, just start falling from everywhere. You just see it in his game. Meanwhile, I like, Cheddar and Burnett being able to fill it up. Sky's the limit for this team. OU coming in, a team that shoots a lot of threes from every position and plays a 2-3 zone. That's what you're going to see tonight. Michigan, a heavy favorite, 24.5 points. So we will see you after the game tonight. And about 15 turnovers or less. We've addressed that. 15 might be a nice number. I'd put it up as, 15's a nice number. You don't really want it going over 20. That's for sure. So between 15 and 20, 17. Sounds like a lot. They can turn it over 17 times if they want. But we're into it now, man. You got football, you got basketball, you got hockey. It's a good time to be alive. Thanks so much for watching. If you are somebody that listens to the podcast, I want to give you a shout out, and then I want to tell everyone this is what we do all the time over on the Maize and Blue Review. We're talking Michigan nonstop, all day, all night. I guarantee you'll love it. You like recruiting, like talking about Bryce Underwood's development. You like the look at the Pro Football Focus grades. You like speculating on the job that Sharon Moore's doing, Chip Lindsey, how Wink coordinates his defense. Those are the kind of things that people are talking about right now over on the Maize and Blue Review. Go to on3.com to join up. I guarantee you will absolutely love it. And with the holidays right around the corner, why not give the gift of the Maize and Blue Review to that someone special who's listening to this right now? That's yourself. Join up, and you'll be like, this is the best move I've ever made. Can't knock it. Got to do it. Let's do it. Take care, and we'll talk to you after the ball game tonight.